Good afternoon. It is a Facebook Live Friday. Brian Milam, Lee K. Howard, as we kind of recap what's gone on this past week. And it has been a week of a lot of emotion. Jared Lorenzen passing away July 3rd. He was memorialized and a celebration of life earlier this week. And for me, that was really the biggest takeaway of the entire week. Spent July 10th up in Edgewood at St. Pius X Church and saw so many people come up there, and it was pretty emotional. There was some laughter, there were obviously tears, there was disbelief, a little bit of everything.
I think it just goes to show just the reach that Jared Lorenzen had, not only for the state of Kentucky, the University of Kentucky, but really in some ways the whole world. A lot of people knew of Jared Lorenzen and a lot of his former teammates from both Kentucky, even the New York Giants, even Eli Manning made his way to Northern Kentucky this week to be there for that celebration of life. So certainly a very neat thing to do for someone like Jared Lorenzen.
So many past players, teammates of his. We saw Mark Stoops, Tony Neely, several other people within the UK football and athletics administration that made their way up there. For me, being a little selfish, and reminiscing a little bit about Jared, because when I got into sports, 1999 was my first year. That was his redshirt freshman season. Dusty Bonner was the quarterback. And then in 2000, when I really jumped into sports full-time professionally, I got to see Dougie Allen and got to see Derek Smith and Nolan Devon and all of these guys, Sylvester, the Big Cat Miller, and Sweet Pea Burns. And that early 2000s run and that era for me was huge because it was my first time really in television for sports. And so when these people like Jeremy Caudle showed up and Shane Boyd, it took me back to a younger time too, when all of us were younger and we didn't think about what could happen later in life. And as we saw for Jared, things went well professionally, but then physically.
Sure.
That's what brought him down in the end, but it was really great to see so many people show up.
And isn't it neat to see that many years later, you were talking about that group and that team, and it's been almost 20 years from that group, but they still remain tight. They still remain close, and especially when a situation like this unfortunately happens, that group is here to rally. And I think that's the great thing about sports in general. Most teams, you create a bond that's like a family, and that family does not end when you leave your prospective school at the time. I mean, that continues on. So that was a really neat thing to do, and I know there are several opportunities to help raise money for Jared Lorenzen, his family, in such a difficult time. One of them being the Throw Boy Tees, his T-shirt company, donating all the proceeds of their T-shirt sales this month, of the entire month of July, to the family of Jared Lorenzen. So that is a pretty neat deal. Plus, you can get a T-shirt. So go to throwboytees.com and buy a T-shirt.
Keenan Burton, who was a receiver out of Manual High School in Louisville. Derek Johnson from Harrodsburg. Brother Dennis played on the defensive side. Derek was on the offensive line. They were two of the more emotional guys that were there. Keenan really took it hard. His first touchdown pass coming against Louisville at then Commonwealth Stadium. And Derek, certainly, he had the football and would snap it to Jared when Nolan Devon didn't do it. And I was really touched by those two guys in particular. Shane Boyd, who played at Henry Clay, and as people remember, had a quarterback duel for the job, and actually started in 2003 over Jared, and then Jared would come in relief, and those two guys would battle it out. And just the respect that competitors have. There are times when the media gets blamed for a lot of they're starting a quarterback controversy. That was a quarterback competition, and I think sometimes people get competition and controversy confused. No, there is always competition in everything. Shane flew in. He was in Chicago and flew in for this. And just as you mentioned, the reach that the hefty lefty would have, and man, he's going to be missed because that guy had so much charisma. He didn't look like a quarterback. He threw like a quarterback. But I jokingly said, to Dave Baker, but it was true. He was the master of the improv.
Yes, in fact,
he did.
I was going to say, Gary on Facebook right now just said, never will forget the over-the-back pass that Jared made, about to go down, and he literally throws the ball. there's no way he knew where that was going, but he knew a receiver was going to be in that
somebody
direction.
Was there.
Whether it was lucky or it was planned, that's the kind of thing that Jared Lorenzen did, and kind of in that time when Kentucky, let's face it, the team wasn't very good at all.
Right, they struggled a little bit.
Exactly, but at the time, he put them on the map, and people wanted to watch Kentucky football because of this guy, Jared Lorenzen, and so that was fun. And I also think this is pretty neat. You mentioned Mark Stoops and some of the current football regime that's there at UK. They have mentioned in some way they're going to honor Jared this upcoming season. Terry Wilson, the current quarterback at UK, put a thing out on Twitter the other day that he is looking into wearing Jared's number 22 for that first game of the season. So however they decide to honor Jared, that is certainly a really neat thing.
One thing about sports that I love is how baseball, football, basketball, hockey, soccer, whatever your sport, how they honor the past, or they honor a player with the magnitude Jared had on this state. And I really think it'd be nice if you just saw, we see at the top of Kroger Field the flags that fly for South Carolina and LSU, just representing the entire SEC. But I think it'd be pretty sharp if they had a 22 flag fly the entire season.
Sure.
Because he had such an impact. Something what now?
Yeah.
We're getting a text from Chris Bailey here.
It's something cool than what you're talking about.
Oh, sure. The tribute car for Jared Lorenzen this weekend at Kentucky Speedway. B.J. McLeod tonight in the NASCAR race is going to have a decal of Jared Lorenzen on the hood of his car.
That better be a big hood.
Yeah. But I mean, that's how you know you made it.
Yeah,
I
right.
mean, and Jared, let's be honest, Jared would have loved all this stuff.
Oh, no doubt.
He would have soaked all this stuff in. So yeah, another way that Jared is being remembered this weekend in Sparta at the NASCAR races.
And you mentioned the behind the back pass or behind the head pass, and I remember the Indiana game when Jared is directing traffic on the run to Derek Smith, back corner. He was a sandlot guy. I mean, he was drawing up the rocks. You're the bottle cap, you're the stick. Here's what you're going to do when you go here and there. And as I mentioned, obviously he did not have the body of what you would consider a quarterback or a position player. But in some ways, and I'm going to use a wrestling term here, for Dusty Rhodes, who always used to say, I'm the son of a plumber. I'm the son. He looked like a truck driver.
Yeah.
That he was going to be the truck driver who's going to be throwing it, or just that everyday man who was that quarterback. And that's the kind of hero that a lot of people can relate to. He didn't look like this, and that. He just looked like everyday Jared. And I think that is one thing that people will always take with them.
And to wrap this up, not only him on the field, but I think a lot of people spoke to you the other day. It wasn't necessarily exactly only what he did on the field that made them love him. It was the kind of person that he was then as a teammate,
no question.
The kind of person that he was growing up in Northern Kentucky, the kind of teammate that he was at Highlands High School, and of course the kind of person that he was ever since then when those people like myself got to know him. Even better person than he was a football player.
Like I said, if you could mention someone's name and you immediately start to smile, you've done something pretty good. Speaking of great people who have done great things, Mitch Barnhart is a top-of-the-line human being, and he was just today, it was officially announced, he will be the head of the NCAA selection committee when the year 2020-2021, that season rolls around. He's going to be the third UK representative all-time. Bernie Shively, C.M. Newton, now Mitch Barnhart will be the head of the selection committee. And, for John Calipari all these years, he said, I don't know what the committee's doing. They're trying to stick it to us. Now you can't say that because your boss is going to be at the top of the food chain here in a couple of years.
In fact, Mitch Barnhart has been on the committee the last couple of years. He hasn't been the chairman of the committee, but he's been on the committee. And Calipari likes to, and they've got better with the formulas and being more transparent with the coaches and the schools. With these are the kinds of things we're looking for in order to seed you. And of course, every year, people get left out or things get seated funny in some ways, and everybody likes to play the victim, and John Calipari likes to play the victim many times as far as his seating is concerned. But this last year, I thought it was funny on Selection Sunday. We all went over to his house, and there was something with their bracket that Cal was like, I mean, they didn't ask me. I don't know I don't have anyone on the committee. and someone was like,
John Hale said,
Yeah.
I think it was John. So
yeah,
you do.
Yeah, well, you kind of do. Your boss is actually on the committee. So, yeah, it's always good, though, to have somebody on the committee, although it is important to note
Certainly.
the athletic director of a particular school cannot be in the room
That is
when
correct.
they're discussing their particular team. That's not just for the chairman, that's for any member of the committee that is directly involved with the school. So Mitch Barnhart will not be able to be in the room when they're discussing Kentucky's seeding for the NCAA basketball tournament, but I would assume that they're not going to do something poorly and then invite Mitch Barnhart back into the room and say, "Oh yeah, we put you in San Jose, California against Duke." I'm sure that can only help that Mitch Barnhart will be the chairman of the committee, not this next year,
Right.
but the year after
2020, 2021. And even though he can't be in the room, you can plant the seed.
There you go.
I learned this a long time ago. You have the meeting before the meeting, if you know what I mean. So he doesn't have to be in the room, won't be in the room, can't be in the room. But he could probably say, Lee K, we look like a number one seed right now.
Right.
And I'm probably thinking number one overall seed because next year you're going to be in this position. And if you really want that position, you may want to put Kentucky as the number one overall seed.
And what does this say about Mitch Barnhart? 18 years at Kentucky.
He has killed it.
I think he's I believe he's the longest tenured AD in the Southeastern Conference. He's been the chairman of the SEC athletic directors. Now he's going to be the chairman of the NCAA basketball committee. I hope people understand what Mitch Barnhart has meant to this school, because while many people look at basketball as what they think of when they think of UK athletics, what he has been able to do with putting coaches, the Rachel Lawsons in softball and, all these other sports, and they've all elevated themselves as an athletic department. That is really something what Mitch Barnhart and the people that he's been able to bring have been able to do.
He has done exactly what his title says he is to do. He's the athletics director, and for years and years and years, you go back to, you can go all the way back to Lancaster and Hagan and then C.M. Newton. So many people just thought, well, it's Kentucky's a basketball school. The AD is basically the basketball athletic director, and everybody else, if we win, great. Mitch Barnhart has elevated every single sport. Cheerleading and basketball is where the national championships were won in the 80s and 90s and so forth. Softball is off the charts. Mm-hmm. Rifle has won national titles. Baseball has improved. $50 million stadium. The improvements to Commonwealth Stadium, now Kroger Field. Women's basketball has gone crazy, winning an SEC championship, only the second time in school history. Every single volleyball has gone nuts. I mean, he has done exactly what an athletics director should do. And if you remember, I know you weren't here, but when he hired Rich Brooks, and those horrible, dumb sayings, the bumper stickers, the shirts that said ditch, Mitch,
right,
and Rich, that was so dumb, because you have to give somebody a chance, and because UK football struggled right after Guy Moe left. When Guy Morris was 7-5 in 2002, then Rich Brooks came in, they went 4-8. It really took them a while to get going. Just stay the course. Yeah. Things are going to happen. And 18 years later, Kentucky is at the top of the food chain in just about everything.
Yeah, so absolutely. Congratulations to Mitch Barnhart.
Yeah, no question. Also this weekend, Quaker State 400. Alex Walker is up at the Kentucky Speedway today. He'll bring in some of the video of the Jared Lorenzen car that we will see this weekend. And the Quaker State 400, I'm not a huge NASCAR guy. Don't even try to act like I am, even though we all need a chassis adjustment and a splash of Sunoco fuel every now and then. That place has really come a long way also. The first year they had it, it was terrible with the traffic and the people paying tickets and only got to see like the last 30 laps of the race. They have done a wonderful job up there. If you've never gone to the Kentucky Speedway to see the Quaker State 400 or a race at all, you need to treat yourself to that, because the first time I went, I thought, what do they do? They take left turns all day long. The planning, the stuff that goes on in the garage, That is worth the price of admission if you can get in there.
Yeah, it's always a neat weekend. I've been up there a couple of times, and they did the repave a couple of years ago, and that, of course, changed the whole surface of the track, and it changed kind of the dynamic. And Martin Truex Jr. has won back-to-back years. You've got a couple of drivers, Kyle Busch, who we met up with yesterday in Georgetown. He's won twice there. Brad Keselowski has won there. So there's a couple drivers that have kind of had the number on Kentucky Speedway, but this will be another fun year. The race is tomorrow night, the Quaker State 400, the Cup Series race. And, of course, there's a race tonight as well. Trucks were last night. So a fun thing to do. Only comes around literally one weekend, once a year. You got the Cup race in Sparta, Kentucky, and it's fun to go up there. So if you don't have plans, go up there. And like you said, some of the Cup drivers are speaking to the media probably as we speak right now this afternoon, certainly. And we will have some coverage from Sparta coming up at 5:30 and 6 o'clock tonight.
One final thing, and we'll make this quick because we show so many highlights. Summer League for former Wildcats. Boy, what has Tyler Hero been drinking in that Miami water down there? Because this guy has killed it. Keldon Johnson has gone off. We haven't seen PJ because of an injury, so we'll wait till the season rolls around. But it is a lot of fun to see how quickly kids can adjust from the college game. And I know you're not facing off with Russell Westbrook and LeBron and all these guys just yet. But to get at that pro stage, that summer league, and to do what they have been doing in such a short amount of time, maybe Keldon, and I was a little skeptical. I thought of the three, PJ, Hero, and Keldon. I thought he's got to mature a little bit. He's got to put some weight on. He's got to figure out what his game is.
Right.
Because he would be an excellent three-point shooter for 2 games, disappear from the arc. Then he'd go rebound 17 times in a game like he did once, and then he'd disappear again, and then for 4 or 5 games, kill it again. So, but he has just worn it out for the Spurs, and it's been a lot of fun to watch.
It has been a lot of fun to watch, and you mentioned Tyler Hero. His game translates to today's NBA
it sure does.
Like nothing else. I mean, you got more spacing on the floor, and Tyler can, as we saw at Kentucky some too, he can shoot off the dribble, he can shoot off the catch, he can come off a screen. I mean, he's been able to translate that to the Summer League, but all those people who questioned how Tyler Hero was a lottery pick for the Miami Heat, I think they're starting to realize why Pat Riley decided to take him. So, and he's going to be on a team where I think minutes are going to be available for him. So that's going to be fun to see once, like you said, he does compete against the LeBrons and the Russell Westbrooks and the real competition. I still think his game's going to translate quite well, and it's great to see those guys competing so well in the NBA Summer League right now.
All right, that's going to do it for this Facebook Live Friday. Next week is the SEC Football Media Days. We will be down in Hoover, Alabama, covering the Wildcats, and who knows where they will wind up in the preseason polls. A lot of people think they're just a 6-win team. Some people think they could go either way. They're kind of sitting on the fence according to some of the prognostications. But as Mark Stoops says, this is the talking season. Nobody saw 10 wins coming a year ago. And I think anything other than another big bowl game or at least a mid-major bowl game, especially with all the guys that UK lost, I think you can pencil in the Cats for another bowl game, and can't wait for that. But let's enjoy the season first before we start talking about this and that.
Hey, you got to talk about numbers.
Numbers. Well, this number says it's time to go.
Okay, sounds good.
For Lee K. Howard, I'm Brian Milam. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next Friday.